Minister, you and I sat up there a few years ago and we had many a chat about agriculture, about recycling, about reuse of different things, and you often told me about your green policies. 15 years ago around Dublin here, if you drove a lorry, a hacker is what they call them, you would get tin loads to a tip. There was Bellelay, there was Dunsink, there was different places when you were doing development right around this city. Today those lorries go to Longford, they go to Westmeath, they go to Monaghan, they go to different parts of the country because of the problems with tips. And ironically enough, Minister, most of the stuff, if you're driving through Dublin or if you're ever stuck on traffic lights, if you watch the shears taking down the buildings, it's concrete, it was mortar, it was gravel, it was cement. And right around this country, be it Galway, be it Dublin, be it Cork, be it Limerick, where there is a lot of what we call muck away being shifted. In Dublin alone, there's about 3,000 to 4,000 loads per day. A third of everything that's been taken out is concrete, is stone, is cement. And if you bring that to a tip, you have to bury it with everything else. And you as Minister is overlooking this, when 1/3 of it could be used, be it on greenway roads, be it on making roads, because even, and I'm well aware of the mica and I understand the whole situation, but with tar there isn't that effect. Farmers' roads, where they're developing farms around the country, 1/3 of this could be saved in the reuse, recyclable situation. And there's an Article 28, I think it's end of use waste in your department. And there's people trying to get round the hoops at the moment of trying to screen topsoil the way that you make topsoil available for green areas or for round houses. They are trying to recycle this stone, and then someone will come in from the council and say, if I catch you at that, we're taking your tip licence off you. For God's sake, as a Minister for Environment, and especially a Green Minister, will you go into your department and sign a regulation that anything in cement, or in the concrete, basically sand and cement, or the stone that was used, can be recycled for certain projects? I'm not saying we go putting them under houses, I'm not saying we go putting them under factories or anything like that, but what I am saying is there is plenty of use that can be made of it if you're the person that's thinking of the environment, instead of a lorry going to Longford, Westmeath or Monaghan, that you can reduce it by 1/3. Will you do that is a very simple question.
Yes, we intend to introduce a circular economy bill which will have a whole range of provisions to reduce the amount of materials that we are dumping or that we are seeing going to waste. And I fundamentally agree with you. I remember the shock I realised when I was originally a city councillor in Dublin to realise that 1/3 of our landfill then was demolition waste. Often very good and expensive and carbon intensive products that we need to reduce and reuse and recycle. And it's going to be after that scale, it's beyond compare. We have the Waste Action Plan introduced. It has 200 measures in it. Very practical, very deliverable, and we're systematically, Minister Oisin-Smith, who is Minister now of State with responsibility in the area, delivering on it. We're starting to see it happen in terms of how we recycle more. Those soft plastics at the moment, you can put into the green bin, all of them. And I think in the area that often wouldn't get the attention because it's not household, but exactly what you're saying, I agree. We need to switch so that the materials in building are recycled, reused and reduced. And if I can just give an example of the scale of the change we need to make, I had a meeting with Dublin Port recently as one measure. I mean, I think 97% of the roll-on, roll-off port traffic comes into Dublin Port. It's huge, as so much of our goods that we consume come in through that route. And they were saying that we're going to go from 35 million tonnes, I think it's the moment, 35 million tonnes, up to 70 million tonnes of imports. And I was saying to myself, what are we going to be consuming twice of? How is it that this inexorable world where every year there's 2 or 3% expected growth in the use of materials? And I said to them, no, we need to review that. We need to look again at the whole strategy of this ever-increasing growth in materials. We need to dematerialise our development, and we need, particularly in the building sector, to look at recycling and using materials in a safe way, subject to proper environmental standards, that saves us money, that reduces the amount of waste, reduces the amount of imports, reduces the carbon. So yes is my answer to you. I think you're exactly right in terms of what the direction we need to take, and I look forward to working with my colleague and the department, Oisin Smith and the department, to introduce the sort of measures that you've talked about. One last thing I'd say, it's not just the same materials. In building and construction, we need to switch to wood. We need this laminated timber, I believe, will allow us to replace a lot of the concrete and cement. And actually, it's not just about reducing the use of the existing materials, it's about changing the materials we use. That would be another way in which we can change from this big consumption, our never-ending use of resources to switching to better ways.
Minister, with due respect, the first thing you have to do is knock the building before you can switch to the wood that you're on about. So we have to get the stuff that's there recycled. And what I am saying to you is, Minister, there are people trying to get around this for 14 months at the moment in licences with different councils. I know one person that has took the initiative of screening topsoil, of screening stone out of the loads of muck that come in. Fine if it's boulder clay, everyone will use it on the roadways that they're making and it's perfect stuff. You can put lime in with it and it makes a perfect job of a roadway. But why don't you talk about legislation, you talk about looking at this. Why isn't there a regulation signed by you immediately to say for farm roadways, or for if you're doing a greenway, which there's no problem with, that if it's concrete material or stone and it's crushed and you get it tested, I'm not saying that that it won't be right, but that can be used for that immediately, or that you can screen topsoil out of a load of muck that comes in. Because what we are doing, we are dumping it all. And you talk about legislation. I welcome your answer, Minister. I'm not saying that I don't welcome your answer. But what I'm saying is, legislation in here is like pulling teeth. It's pretty slow. And I don't want to be here in a year's time saying to you, when is this legislation coming? I am asking you to go in as a minister that has the opportunity to be able to sign a regulation and change that to be a green waste or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you for your cooperation. Minister to reply.
It won't be a year, it'll be quicker than that, a lot quicker. And this government, 3 years to run, has the necessary plans, I believe. The Housing for All plan, the Climate plan, the National Development plan. The Housing for All plan also commits exactly to the sort of measures that you were talking about. What we have to do now, in my mind, across all departments, is focus on delivery and delivery and delivery and being fast. And take some of that capability we showed in COVID or in Brexit to make decisions quickly, not to be forever examining and kind of going to the nth degree. Some of the delays the Deputy Grealish were talking about in terms of projects taking so long. So I commit to you, I will go away and sit down with the department and come back to you to see how could we be fast, how could we be quicker, how could we introduce not just the legislation but the regulations that we needed to make that happen, subject to the right environmental standards, making sure we get, we keep the proper rules in place. But I agree with you, I think we need to be quicker and we need to be more flexible and innovative, and particularly in this area because that issue of waste and the carbon emissions coming from it is one of the best, most economic ways of us saving emissions, saving money.